All right, if you would, those in the audience and the commissioners, if you would, please silence or turn off your cell phones. Remind those in the audience and those watching on TV that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exemption requests brought before us today. We will first hear a reading of the staff report for the case by planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request or to inquire about the said request. The commissioners will have any needed discussion on the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the city council with the two independent recommendations. If the planning department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will then have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the clerk of council that they are requesting to be placed on the city council's agenda. The City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting, first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review PAC and planning department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. Council will first make a final decision in a second public meeting called the second reading. First thing on the agenda today is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting. Do any of the commissioners have any changes, input, questions? Okay, we'll move those as approved. All right, that brings us to our first case this morning. Case number REZN 06195903. A request to rezone 1.23 acres of land located at 4590 Woodruff Road. The current zoning is SFR3, Single Family Residential 3. Proposed zoning is NC, Neighborhood Commercial. The proposed use is commercial retail. John Wells is the applicant. This property is located in Council District 8, which is Garrett. Mr. Johnson, would you please read the report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. REZN 06195903. This case is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, planning area F, District 7. Current land use designation is public institutional. Future land use designation is single family residential. It is compatible with existing land uses. The floodway does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit. The property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 598 trips if used for commercial use. The level of service will remain at C. This site shall meet the codes and regulations of the Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. There's no school impact. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the SFR3 zoning district. Three options under Category C are: number one, 20 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, canopy trees, and understory trees per 100 linear feet. 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall, or 30 feet undisturbed natural buffer. This is not within Fort Bidding's notification range. This is not a DRI. Surrounding zoning: to the north is SFR3, the south is neighborhood commercial, the east is SFR3, and the west is neighborhood commercial. 30 property owners within 300 feet of the subject properties were notified of the rezoning request. Planning department received, I've got 3 on here, but I know I got 3, so 6 or more. And there's no additional information.
And what was the disposition of those 6?
I think they were all in opposition. Yeah, they're all in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by the commissioners? Mr. Dudley?
Just a clarification. When you say that if the application is approved and the property is developed, the level of service on the road will remain level C, does that mean that you're saying that the road can handle the additional traffic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the commissioners? All right, if the applicant would please come forward and state your name and address.
Good morning. I'm Rob McKenna, and I represent John Wells, who is the owner of the property and the applicant for this property. This is a rezoning application for 1.23 acres, as you heard, going from SFR3 to NC. This was the former site of the Winchester neighborhood pool. So that pool over the years fell into disrepair and disuse. It was pretty much overgrown, green, kind of a mosquito-infested area. Mr. Wells bought the property at tax sale a couple of years ago. He has gone in, cleaned it all up, taken the pool out, flattened the land, filled it in, cleaned up all of the debris that was behind the gas station there on the corner, and started looking at ways to develop this property. The first thing is it's SFR3, so he looked at building homes there. But given where the property is, located right next to a gas station and right across the street from St. Francis Shopping Center, the economics just didn't work to build a house there. So he looked at some other options. One of the options was going to multifamily. But Mr. Wells is a longtime resident of that area, although he doesn't live there now. He did, his first house was in that area. His daughter still lives in the area. And he felt like multifamily would be a bigger intrusion into the neighborhood than neighborhood commercial. So we started looking at neighborhood commercial, and he came up with the plan that I think is in your packets. It's a relatively small plan, single story, so we wouldn't be looking into the neighbors' yards behind it. There's a 30-foot buffer there now. He did have to clear out a lot of that to remove the pool, but there are still a good number of trees back against the residences behind the house. So we feel like that's the best use of the property, given where it is, has the least impact on the neighborhood. As you heard, the traffic's shouldn't be an issue, although it will create traffic as a commercial development. We recognize that. It is served by all city services. But looking at the neighborhood, we felt like that was the best use for that plan, given where it is. I know that the city said they had 6 calls in opposition. We do know that we have some people who are in favor of it from the neighborhood. I don't know if they're here today or not, but we've gotten calls from several neighbors over there who are happy that he bought it, took out the pool, and are in favor of the neighborhood commercial. So, John, you want to add anything? This is John Wells, who owns the property. I'll turn it over to him.
Morning, gentlemen. I'm John Wells. My address 7107 Layton Road in Columbus. I'm a businessman, kind of developer. I've built some projects. I own rental property now, residential. And as he said already, my first house was built over in Kingston. It's just probably less than a mile from that pool. My kids walked to the pool when it was open for years, whenever they grew up over there. Used to walk down to Peluso's Pizza in the shopping center there in the St. Francis Shopping Center, and get lunch and things like that, and had a good time. The pool had been run down over the past years. The electrical light in it was hanging inside the pool. And if anybody had an opportunity to take a look at it, it was grown up, kind of filled in, green, water level was down. In other words, it was totally unusable for a few years. Having an interest in the area, having lived there for years, and wanting to make sure that that something was done to it, that would be proper. I purchased the property and cleared it all out. Took the pool out, filled it in, leveled the land, seeded it, and put straw on it. If you look at the lot now, it's a nice, pretty green lot. Obviously, it can't stay that way because nobody wanted the old pool. I can't tell you how many people have emailed me and texted me and said, thank you for taking that pool out. I reached out to the community before this meeting and even posted a sign down by the rezoning sign about a meeting at Epworth United Methodist Church. I called them and got a room that we could meet in. And also, my daughter posted it in that neighborhood watch thing they have over at little, I don't know what, I'm not too technical, but she posted it and said that there's going to be a meeting. Several people turned out. I can't tell you how many people there was in favor of it. A lot of them said, I'm in favor of it, I'm glad you did it, what you're planning to do, and I showed them the plans. I'm glad you're doing it. We had a couple of 3 that spoke opposition to it, and I kept asking, what was the opposition, and they said, would you accept conditions on it? And, it's neighborhood commercial, so there's there's a whole lot of restrictions already on neighborhood commercial instead of general construction or highway commercial or something like that. And so I want to comply totally with the neighborhood commercial. I talked to the city arborist. I met him on the job site. We talked about trees, buffers, shrubberies, and things like that. I plan to do exactly what he tells me to or more. I wouldn't even attempt to do anything less because I'm a resident here. I've lived in Columbus, Georgia all my life. And I want to see that place improved over the existing problem that was there. I also would like to say that the two neighbors that own the property right next door to this in the houses, both of them are in favor of the rezoning. And they've texted me, and I've got the text here that they said that they would not oppose it. In fact, they approve of it and hope that it happens. That's the two neighbors that live right. There's 3 houses on that street. I guess if y'all know the property, you know it's directly across the street from St. Francis Shopping Center, which is neighborhood commercial. On the left side of if you're looking at the St. Francis Shopping Center from my property, on the left-hand side is a service station on the Manchester Expressway. That service station backs up to the property. The shopping center, it's all in front of it, comes up way over here at the end of the block, which is way down the street from me. So it's really, everything you can see from that lot is neighborhood commercial. If you go past that and go up into Winchester, there's this big office building right beside the St. Francis Shopping Center. It's been there for years and years. And behind it, over on the other street over there, is a 2-story, 8-unit multifamily apartment complex. My choices were on this thing as I looked at it. The housing, you have to build 4 houses there. But in a restricted area like that, it's almost impossible to build a house and sell it for less than $190,000, $200,000. Nobody's going to pay that for that lot over there. My next choice was multifamily. So I had a proposal written up that I could put several duplexes on it. I could even put as many as 4 quadruplex units on there, have plenty of room, plenty of parking, and everything. When I got to thinking about multifamily, you know, either 12 to 16 families living there would be a whole lot worse than it is now. It would be worse than a little strip. So I gave up on the multifamily, and then I looked at the neighborhood, and I said, well, neighborhood commercial would be the best. I talked to some professionals, and they all advised neighborhood commercial would be best for that lot. My intention is, and I don't know if y'all have a rendering of what I want to do, but I want to build about a 70-foot deep, 1-story office or small shop complex. And I've been with my architect and engineer, and they have drawn it off. They know how many parking places that it takes to comply with the city. They know the in and out access and egress to the property. They know where everything has to be. And so depending on that, determine the number of square foot that I would have in the building. My idea is to have something like that, PSC, you know, public service cellular, you know, telephone, insurance companies, maybe a hair shop, a nail shop, you know, small places like that, or other retail shops. You know, you can't build anything in there over 5,000 square feet in a business, and so it'll all have to be smaller than that. I don't intend to put any bars or strip joints or lingerie shops in there. And as I told the neighbors the other day, there's, in my mind, there's several types of businesses that, you know, type person I am and my experiences, I would not lease to those buildings. I told them I wasn't going to go into detail about it because somebody in that audience, you know, may own one of those properties, and I didn't want to offend anybody. But I want the neighborhood to look good. I want the shops to look good. I'm envisioning now maybe a sign out front that says Winchester Shops, SHOPPES, and have those shops there that the people in the neighborhood could utilize, and it would be something, you know, that would improve the neighborhood. I also would like to say that there was some homeless people on the lot. There was trash, beer bottles, all kind of stuff on the lot before I went in and cleared it out. It took us a lot to get all that stuff out. But if you've been by there, the lot's perfectly clear, pretty, level, nice, and with the people next door in those 2 houses approving of the rezoning proposal that I've got, I wanted to bring it down here and talk to you guys and see, you know, if you would rezone it for me so that I could move on and build these shops in there. So if any of you have any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions by the commissioners? Okay, there are none. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, we have none. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against this request? Okay, this lady here. If you would, please come forward and state your name and your address.
My name is Rebecca Wiggins, and I live at 4616 St. Francis Avenue. John was nice enough to entertain the neighborhood last Monday night and tried to answer questions for us and all. I do want to say that I hope that this conversation about the pool and the condition of the pool will just end now, because the pool's gone. The pool has really nothing to do with the subject that's on the table right now, which is the rezoning. I think most of us as a neighborhood do not mind so much the idea of a neighborhood commercial, although that's not what we really like. What we really like is single family, like the neighborhood is. Neighborhood commercial has already come down, as he described, down into our neighborhood. Even across the street from the back of St. Francis Shopping Center is a very passive office building that's zoned neighborhood commercial. It has no conditions on it. So if somebody bought that and wanted to tear it down and build whatever NC will support, they could do that, and that's in our neighborhood. So where will that end? Where will neighborhood commercial end? When Mr. Wells bought the property, he knew what it was zoned. He did bring to us two models. One was the multifamily and one was the NC, and it was as if we had two choices, but we really have more choices than that. Y'all could leave it single family, and then John could decide if he wanted to build single families there, or he might sell it to somebody who would. I feel like it's going to go NC, but we would like conditions on it, lots of restrictions. What we don't want, and some of the things that he says he doesn't want, are things like bars and restaurants. We don't want restaurants and bars, not that we have anything against them, but that in the back of these establishments will be dumpsters that go with, they are the accompanying things that you have to have with bars and restaurants. And they're going to back right up to three people's backyards. I don't even know if they're here or not, but they're going to back up to three people's backyards. So we would like for it to be very passive. There's a list, and I can go over every one of them because I wrote them all down out of the UDO about what we would like and what we wouldn't like. And basically, what we would like is very passive stuff like doctor's offices, insurance offices, a veterinary office, mail and packaging store, business and professional offices. Do let me add this too, gentlemen, that as John said, there's neighborhood commercial across the street and over behind the St. Francis Shopping Center, and all of those are now suffering vacancies. The office building is for sale, and it is not near to capacity. There are several empty businesses at the St. Francis Shopping Center, and around the corner where the old Merrill Lynch building was across from St. Francis Hospital, it's been for rent for a long time, and they can't rent that. So why do we want more neighborhood commercial right across the street from neighborhood commercial? It can't support what it's got now. John said that he talked to the people in the houses next door to that property. Those people are renters, except for the corner lot. Those people don't own those homes. They're renters. I talked to one of the owners of one of those properties, and they said they would go along with neighborhood commercial, but not any kind of multifamily. And we are all, I think, way against multifamily there. But he's only applied for neighborhood commercial. If this gets denied, would he not have to wait 6 months to apply for any other change?
6 months for a different category.
Right, thank you.
6 months from the time it's denied at council. You can reapply probably within 5 months. It's just got to be 6 months between council meetings. Same zoning 1 year.
Thank you, Will. John really didn't share with us all that he would not rent to. What we want to do is get restrictions on it so that it can be a very passive place, so that all of the businesses there, if y'all just have to rezone it, all the businesses there would be an 8 to 5 kind of thing, so that these people that live right behind it will not be impacted by late night 24-hour gym, or a restaurant that stays open, or a bar that stays open until 2 in the morning, plus all those dumpsters. There's always a problem with dumpsters that the people who dump the dumpsters come at about 4 a.m. That's problematic to people who live right behind that and have children to get up and go to school, and they got to get up and go to work, and they get to wake up at 4 a.m. I live on St. Francis, down the street from the Manchester entrance there, and there's a pawn shop there, and they empty the dumpster at 4 a.m. whenever they empty it, and I get to wake up then. And I live down the street from that. I don't live right behind it. So that's a problem. Will mentioned ingress and egress from the neighborhood and the number of cars that would increase. And I'm sure that if you did a traffic study, it would show that that road can handle that kind of traffic. But what the problem is how it jams up there at the gas station and at the St. Francis Shopping Center already. The gas station has a driveway that comes out onto Woodruff Road, less than 2 car lengths from the Manchester Expressway. So if somebody's coming out or going in there, or turning to the left to go into the gym or the other things at St. Francis Shopping Center, there's already a lot of traffic pileup. Add to that school buses from Arnold School, and we often have a traffic jam, and sometimes those choosing to turn left off of Manchester onto Woodruff Road can't do so and are stuck out there in the intersection while the rest of this traffic goes back and forth from the gas station to Woodruff Road and from St. Francis Shopping Center to Woodruff Road. And if we add yet another ingress and egress, his plan showed something like a big circular type drive. So then we'll have 2 more driveways to clog up some more up there at that intersection. What is it appropriate for me to ask y'all, what is your desire about restrictions on that NC? Would y'all be willing to put enough restrictions on it that we could be happy as a neighborhood with an office building there, so that we don't have dumpsters, we don't have anything past 8 to 5? And I know that John says that he'll do that, but with all this empty businesses there, in a year, if he hasn't rented, he might lower his standard a little bit and rent to something that would not be pleasing to the neighborhood. And I know John used to live in our neighborhood, but John doesn't live there now. He hadn't lived there in a long, long time. And he's a fine man, I'm sure, but he has he doesn't have any obligation to our neighborhood to keep it the way we want it and the way that will be most attractive and pleasing. There are 4 major highways, major thoroughfares that surround our neighborhood, and most everybody's house on Lancelot and on some of the other streets back up to businesses on Manchester Expressway. We don't want more commercial down in there. These are our homes. I'll bet you $5 the property values of the people that live right behind this, were there a shopping center there, I don't know if they could sell their houses. I know that the people on Airport Thruway that still live in their residences, I bet you they couldn't sell their homes if they wanted to. And there are still houses on Airport Thruway now that it's a 4 or 5 lane thoroughfare. We don't want that. We don't want that in our neighborhood. We would like for y'all to seriously consider putting very, very passive things in there. I personally would rather see homes there. I know that's not practical for John. And with all due respect to John, this city nor this neighborhood is responsible for his profit or lack thereof. We want to have a neighborhood. We want to have things that are conducive to neighborhood traffic. And we would appreciate very much if y'all would consider, if you're going to rezone this, if you'll consider very, very strict restrictions. There's nothing to say that in a few years, John might sell this strip at a nice profit or not. And if there's not restrictions on it, then somebody else, a new owner, can come in there and do anything they want to do. And that's not acceptable to us. We want to go along and get along, and we want progress, but we want to be protected as well. So I don't know how the rest of this process works, but I can read you everything that we tolerate and everything that we won't if that's necessary. But y'all know what the UDO said. Y'all know what the restrictions are. Y'all know what's acceptable there from the UDO and an NC. So we would ask y'all to restrict this massively so that it will not impact our homes, our lives, and our property values. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Quick question, ma'am. Quick question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Ma'am.
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No problem, and thank you for your time today. I may have missed this, but when you say we, are you collectively speaking for the community in that area? Is there some type of formalized decision? I want to make sure I have a great understanding on who you're speaking for when you say we.
I think I am. We've not met formally, but we've all texted and emailed and private messages and so forth. And if there's somebody here from our neighborhood that wants to say anything different, I'm sure they will.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there further questions, sir?
Any other questions, Commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go forward, I'm going to ask if there are other people that are in opposition. I'm assuming since no one else stepped forward for this. I would ask, though, that you come forward only if you have additional or different information. Does anybody else have anything different that they would like to add? This gentleman in the back. And we will get to you. Hold on 1 minute, ma'am. I'm sorry, 1 minute. State your name and address, please.
Good morning, my name is Jonathan Davis. My address is 2200 Lancelot Place, directly behind the property being rezoned. My main issue is ever since the trees were cut out there, we've had tree debris every time a storm comes through. My two neighbors that live right behind the property too have the same issue. One has debris laying in the pool. I'm here to ask that there be some sort of evergreen trees planted to have a buffer between my property and that property. I'm not really concerned what he puts there. He bought the property fair and square. He can do what he wants to do. But I'm here today to ask that there be some sort of buffer further than what is usually put there. I can see my house from Manchester. I can see every shopping center from my house now. It kind of is a little bit more of a security risk for me, being able to that people can just walk straight up to the back of my property. So I would ask either some sort of evergreen. I'm not really concerned with a fence. I think a fence has to be put there anyway. But if some sort of evergreen tree, something that grows tall, can be sort of a buffer to stop from the wind, from the storm, and from people being able to see into the neighborhood. That's all I really am asking for consideration on.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else in opposition? Please.
I'm Barbara McIntyre. I live 2116 Lancelot Place. It is in my backyard. I apologize, gentlemen. I sent an email to addresses that I could find. Unfortunately, I could not find. I do have my concerns here, if you would like them.
I believe Mr. Johnson forwarded that to all of us.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So we've all had
Thank
time
you.
to review that. Thank you.
A clarification on points that were brought up earlier. Yeah, the traffic is congested. Yes, there are existing driveways to and from the Winchester Bath Club property. However, that was only open in the summer when school was not in session. You did not have the traffic of parents taking their children to and from school. You didn't have the school buses. There are times, as she said, it gets so congested, is traffic, which is turning left onto the expressway going east, that it will be blocked up all the way 2 lanes behind to the second entrance and exit to the St. Francis. But like I said, the traffic is not bad in the summertime. But when school is in session, it is. And to add 2 more driveways into and out of, them trying to turn to the right or to go across and get in the lane to turn. Several years ago, there was a zoning request for the first house, which is 4600 Woodward Road. It was not rezoned because at that time they stated they wanted to keep, even though St. Francis Shopping Center is across the street, this was the beginning of the Winchester subdivision. They wanted to keep it where it was still neighborhood. They didn't want to start and have it go like Arma or other places where it keeps going commercial, commercial, commercial. They wanted to keep it. When John discussed his plans for the property, he stated that he had already invested $50,000 to $60,000 in the property. What concerns me is he did this prior to being rezoned. I mean, he's a businessman that deals in development and such. Why did he invest $60,000 not having the guarantee that he would, get the money back? I know that my property values will definitely go down because Jonathan is my next door neighbor. My other next door neighbor is right with me. But I am in the center of that. That is my backyard. And I'm just concerned about the noise, the safety, and my property value. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in opposition that has something different that they would bring forward? As long as this is something different than what we've already been presented.
My name is Brandon Wallace. My address is 2419 Coventry Drive. I'm in opposition to this. That 2419 Coventry Drive. My neighborhood, my house, I live in the neighborhood, but I live on the other side of the neighborhood. So my house is very close to the Big Lots Office Depot area. So I know what these neighbors are talking about with the sounds and the noise and the trash flying through the air. Before he went in and cleared the property, you couldn't see the houses that are behind the old neighborhood pool. Now you can see them clearly. It's visible all day. And as far as the traffic goes, our neighborhood is a cut-through. People don't go to Armour Road anymore because of the traffic up that way. They cut through our neighborhood, and then at one point in time where there still is a blockade so that you can't get straight to Airport Thruway on a road called 23rd Avenue. But then people are now cutting up and going out. And if we're adding 598 more cars, I mean, it's going to be horrible. The traffic does back up to Devonshire regularly, especially during the school year. So Devonshire is a good city block away from the traffic light, and it backs up there regularly. It encroaches in on our neighborhood. The 2 properties, like she said, the one that's directly next door to this is rental, and it's already been tried to be rezoned one time before, and it was voted down. He made an investment, and in his investment, he took a risk, and The neighborhood's clearly against it. There are a few people that are for it, and from what I can tell, those people are related to them. That's the only people that are for it that I can find. Everybody else is against it. And that's all I have.
All right. Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Besides the traffic, what are your major concerns? Any concerns with safety or anything of that nature?
Well, I'm speaking for other people I've talked to in that, knowing what I know about my area, I can't hardly see stars at night because of the lights that light up. From Big Lots, Office Depot, that whole shopping center. Now, I know his development's not going to be that big, but the other part about it is the people that I've spoken to that live on Lancelot right there, and that it's going to deteriorate their property. They're older people. They can't come up here and speak like we can. But they're concerned about the lights, the crime. You can see clearly the houses that are right behind where the property was, whereas you could not see them before. Now you can clearly see them. I think somebody owns a pool back there. Whenever I was sitting there watching him clear his land, they were back there, and you could see him looking through the fence. You could see people in their yard. I mean, that's just privacy invasion, I believe. So there does need to be some severe restrictions as far as the buffers. And then, like I said, the houses next door to it, it's just going to continue. If this is rezoned, the house next door is going to be rezoned, the house next door is going to be rezoned, and where's it going to stop? We live in the dead center part of Columbus. We start rezoning the dead center part of Columbus, it's all going to be retail eventually. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in opposition that has something different? I want people to have your voice, and if there's no one that has anything different, given that there's quite a few in the audience, to give the commissioners an idea, would all of those that are in opposition just raise your hand? All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other discussion topics? All right, do we have a motion?
Actually, would like to ask Mr. Johnson a question. What are the sorts of things we can add as restrictions on a zoning change?
Well, you're just making a recommendation. So,
Right.
I mean, I looked at, for instance, the alcohol law. I don't think this would qualify for a liquor store or a straight bar. A restaurant's a whole different ballgame. But at NC, you can't have any single use over 5,000 square feet. So I don't know that that would be a viable option, but I guess Becca's got a list that I have not seen, so.
Well, I was more thinking, I mean, we're making a recommendation, so I mean, can the ultimate rezoning contain those specific restrictions on no bars or no restaurants, or, I mean, is the law even allowed to?
Yeah.
Are we by law allowed to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kind of an extension of Commissioner Brandon's question, are we also allowed to recommend a greater buffer than that's already required by law, or would that be overreaching?
The only issue I have with the buffer, and I heard what Mr. Davis said, and that's certainly one of the options, is based on this site plan, there is a one area that's 15 feet from that back property line. The rest of it's 30 and 35, and you could go in there and plant it as much as possible, but there is that one section in that rear parking that would encroach into that 30 feet. So I don't know how you'd exactly word that to make them have the 30-foot. Well, you don't want the 30-foot undisturbed. You want the 20-foot planted. But again, part of that development looks like it's only 15 feet from the property line.
Can they address that quickly, since buffer seems to be a big concern? Do you know what he's, yes, sir, Mr. Wells, and your representative, if you want to come forth too.
You said part of it was what?
Looks, part of the rear parking, I guess, for employees, looks like it's 15 feet from the property
There's a rear
line.
parking lot, and one of the edges of the parking lot goes over the 30-foot back. You know, we could cut that off easy enough. That would be a problem. But and the guy that talked about the trees and I plan to put everything back there. There's already 30 feet. If you look at the lot, it's level like this, and then it's got a slope up the lot about 8 or 9 feet. And then at the top of that, up there where these houses are, there's a 6-foot solid wooden wall and a 6-foot chain link fence. And I can put anything else up there to block that off. In fact, I think I talked to the arborist. I'll do whatever he says, and I'll even go beyond that to get that done. And about traffic, he's already said the traffic division could handle that. To me, in business around town, it's not a busy area. I mean, traffic area is not all that busy in there, even though there is some traffic, of course. But the service station there. But anything that, I'll take care of that. I think my engineer put that parking in there, and you can pave on to a little bit further than what a buffer is, but I don't think it's much, but we can easily take that off.
Yeah, and I understand, you said, to you, it's not much traffic, but we certainly want to be sensitive and hear the concerns of the people that have to live in that
Absolutely.
area. That's extremely important
I want to
when
do
it
what I
comes
can
to
to
zoning.
make it nice.
Would you object to putting a fence up there for safety purposes for those that are concerned about
Already
foot traffic?
got a 6-foot wooden fence all the way across the back and a chain link fence across the back. And I'll plant all kind of shrubberies and evergreens and everything back on that slope that comes down. The slope goes up like this and puts those houses up and behind the, all the fencing and all that's already there. But if there's not enough back there, I'll put some in there. And they mentioned the houses next door, the 2 owners of those houses are in favor of this rezoning.
One thing on with the addition of the fence, we'd have to put the fence down the slope a little bit.
Mhm.
So you're still going to be, it's going to be below the existing fence that's up there. And you'll have a gap that nobody would be able to get to clean up, clear out, whatever. You're going to end up having a lot of weeds and stuff growing up in there.
We got over 30 feet or more that we left natural. All the trees and everything is left in that area. Big, tall pine trees, oak trees, and everything else back there. And I plan to put more. The arborist will come out there, and he's already told me you got to plant so many trees and so many square feet of it. I'll take care of all that. I'm going to adhere totally and completely to what he says and the NC restrictions on that lot.
Any other discussion? All right, do I hear a motion?
One quick question before, if you will, Mr. Chair. You said the fencing would have a gap.
Yes, sir.
So am I to infer that the fencing that is currently there is not Mr. Wells, that it belongs to the neighbors?
I believe the fencing that's there currently belongs to the neighbors, so it's up on top of the hill, on top of the slope.
There's an elevation difference there.
Yeah. So
The rear property line looks like 370 feet, and then by the time you get to the parking lot, it drops 6 to 10 feet. So a fence
So it's
would
flat.
be on the level part, it would not be on the slope. But if you
So if
put
we
a fence
put-
there, then you couldn't plant on the slope.
Right.
So we will be able to plant considerable vegetation to
Yes.
create the blockage?
Be happy to do the vegetation, but if we build the fence, then they're going to have their fence up on top of the hill, and our fence would be somewhere below that. So it's not going to do much from a visual standpoint because their fence will be above ours.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't build it right up against theirs. It would have to be down some. And you're going to end up with a gap that runs the whole length of the back between the 2 fences if you require that we build a fence. More than happy to do the vegetation, so.
Okay, those are my questions.
I have a motion.
Mr. Greenback.
Regarding REZN-06-19-59-5903, 4590 Woodruff Road, approximately 1.23 acres, current zoning classification SFR3, proposed zoning classification neighborhood commercial. I move that we deny this request based on the fact that it is inconsistent with planning area F, District 7.
Do I hear a second?
A second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Cuskey. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? All So that will be moved forward for denial.
May I ask what the reason was? Did he say the reason?
That it was inconsistent with the planning department,
With the comprehensive
with
plan.
with the city's comprehensive plan. all right, thank you. That brings us to our next case, which is REZN 06195904. A request to rezone 3.59 acres of land located at 2243, 2705, and 2713 Norris Road. Current zoning is SFR2, Single Family Residential 2. Proposed zoning is RO, Residential Office. Proposed use is multifamily. Comm Cameron is the applicant. Property is located in Council District 5, Crab. Mr. Johnson, could you read the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. REZN 06-19-5904. This case is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, planning area E, District 5. Current land use, single family. Future land use is single family. It is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer needs an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit. Property is served by all city services. The average annual daily trips will increase by 319 trips if used for residential use. The level of service will remain at level A. This site shall meet the codes and regulations of the Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. Multifamily is considered commercial because you got to have a commercial driveway. School impact is negligible based on the number of units. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the SFR2 zoning district. The three options under Category C are: 1, 20 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, and shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet. 2, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a masonry wall or wood fence, or a 30-foot undisturbed natural buffer. This is not within Fort Benning's notification range. This is not a DRI. Surrounding zoning, north is SFR2, south is RO, east is SFR2, and west is SFR2. 60 property owners within 300 feet of the subject properties were notified of the rezoning request. Planning Department, up to my knowledge, has got 7 in opposition. Well, 6 in opposition, 1 wanting a condition to hold it to 48 units. Additional information, there's none.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes, I understand there's been a lot of social media discussion among neighborhood groups about this, and that the councilwoman who represents that area has been involved in that. Has she made any communication to the city about her views on this?
She has not.
Any other questions? All right. If the applicant would please come forward and state your name and address and present your plan.
Hey, good morning. My name is Cam Cameron. My address is 7512 Morning Marsh Trail, Panama City Beach, Florida. I appreciate the opportunity this morning. As Will stated, I'm seeking the RO designation from a SFR2. I'll be brief. Basically, what I want to do is build 2 apartment buildings for a total of 48 units. I think it's that ideal spot for CSU housing, convenient to Fort Benning. There's just a need for rental around town in general. Hey, Will, can I throw?
Yeah,
over there?
right
Okay.
over there.
This is a property on Armour Road that has recently gone up, called the Legends at Armour. This is similar to what I'm proposing. It's I think these guys did a fantastic job. And when I say similar to theirs, I just mean more in the building style. I think their property may be a little bit bigger, and they have 4 units out there, or 4 buildings.
My next door neighbor is Hidden Lake Condos, which is also zoned RO. So I think I'm I'm being relatively consistent with what's there. There's several other properties on the street that are multifamily. It's just the area has changed. I'm a little bit in the same boat that Mr. Wells was in. Truthfully, there's no market for single-family housing right there, unfortunately. I mean, it's been listed forever. It's a fantastic price for building lots, and I can't get any takers. I'm a builder. I can't make it work. It's just, that's, the market has changed, and that's just, it's just not feasible. As stated, there's some misleading information out there on social media about what I'm wanting to do, and I'm not looking to do any kind of, I know the Hilton project that came up, raised a lot of red flags with people. I'm not looking to do anything like that. I just want to do some nice apartment buildings, and I think there's a need for it. I really believe a majority of the buildings will be housed with CSU students, and I'll leave it there and just answer any questions you guys may have.
Commissioners, any questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this? Seeing none, are there any that are in opposition to this? We have a lady back here. If you would please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Nancy Schroeder, 2525 Norris Road, apartment 117, Columbus, Georgia. If I may read a note that I've written. On behalf of the residents of Hidden Lake Condominium Homeowners Association, I am here to file an objection to the requested zoning change to RO. The basis for our objection is that RO appears to allow an extremely high density, maximum high density as high as 43 units per acre. Since the property is being reviewed is 3.59 acres, that could allow a possible 153 units to be built in the future if the current plans don't materialize. Mr. Cameron has stated that he intends to build a maximum of 48 units on the site. We do not object to that proposed plan and actually favor the possibility of responsible development next to our community, as we've had problems with homeless folks camping on the vacant property for the last several years. We do object to the high density of RO and believe that one of the lower density multifamily designations would better suit the neighborhood. If the RO designation does get approved, we request that it be a restriction added to limit the number of units to 48. Hidden Lake Condominiums is clearly a multifamily community. However, our 98 units are mostly privately owned and occupied by the owners. Only 14% of our community is comprised of owners who lease their units on the open market. The other properties near Mr. Cameron's lots are single family. A low-density, high-quality apartment complex will be more compatible with the neighborhood than a crowded complex with possible businesses as well. My name again is Nancy Schroeder. I am president of the board of directors for Hidden Lake.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
So, ma'am, if we were able to put that restriction on that it would be a 48 unit, no more than 48 units as he's proposed, that would be acceptable to?
Yeah, the only thing I'm curious about, I don't understand when you say RO, what kind of commercial that allows for.
Just offices.
Okay. Yeah, so the 48 apartment units would be acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak against? And do you have different information? Okay. If you would come forward and state your name and address.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Mickey Kay. I'm a relatively new resident on 2722 Barber Avenue. The appeal to Barber Avenue, which abuts the property that we're talking about, is that it's a green space. I moved down here from North Carolina, as you know, one of the most beautiful places in the world, in the area of Western Carolina, where green was very important to us. It's still important to us, which is why we bought where we did on Barber Avenue. I've spoken to every property owner, not renter, property owners, some of them over 50 years. You all know Mr. Adams from Adams Farm. He lives on Barber Avenue. It's going to affect his property. He doesn't want it, and I'm speaking for him. I have a signature of everybody that the property is abutting. The property that exists there today is an indication of where the property is going, or how the property is going to be treated later. It is a dumping ground for people who are doing drugs. If you care about the property you own, take care of it. It's not being taken care of. If he owns this property, he needs to respect the people that his property is abutting. It's very disrespectful. There are people doing drugs right behind our property. This is a neighborhood. This is a neighborhood where people have lived, raised their children, sent them to school. They're invested 50 years, some of them. And they have been disrespected. Somebody from Florida can come up here and just change and make things the way they want to for an investment, but they're not taking care of what's there now. You could sell that property as single family if you cleaned it up. It would be very desirable. Ask us, we live there. It's upsetting to me because it's an abusive situation, and you're allowing an abuser to do something else. We value our neighborhood. It's a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. We'd like to keep it that way. I don't want a two-story building behind me looking into my private backyard. It's a lovely backyard. I've worked hard to make it a home. And every one of you would feel the same way if you knew what I was talking about. Come by, take a look at the lovely homes on Barber Avenue. We are homeowners, and we need to be heard. I don't know what the impact of the schools are. I heard what you said about the impact of the schools and the traffic. I find that difficult to understand. 48 more renters. CSU people are not homeowners. These are kids. They're partiers. We're talking about temporary, transient situation. I don't know what the impact will be on the schools. I don't know what the impact will be on the roads. But I do know right now that the way the roads are constructed, and on North Avenue particularly, or is it North Drive? In particular, I have a Honda Pilot that takes up that full lane. If there's another truck or vehicle coming the other way, there's no place to go. Those roads need to be fixed. They don't need to be burdened more. We have a city planner that we hire to plan a community. There's a reason we have a city planner. We need to pay attention to what the plan was originally. Why we want to start changing things is because somebody comes in here from Florida and says, I have a better idea to use my property and I can make some money. No. This is a community. This is our home. And we need to protect what we've invested in. Thank you very much. I have
Thank you.
signatures of everyone. If you all need a copy, I'll give it to you.
That's fine, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, do we have anyone else in the audience to speak against this that has different information? Okay. If you would, come forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is Rudolph Kay. I live at 2722 Barbara Avenue. The only thing I want to say is that the property behind, the property in question, the property behind where I live is, there's got to be, some of the trees in that backyard are 200 feet tall. I mean, I've never seen trees this tall in a residential area. And for this project to come in, I know a lot of these trees are going to have to be cut down. We have, you can see over into that property. These trees, there's sweet gum trees, there's oak trees, there's pine trees, and a majority of them are 100 to 200 feet tall. And it would be a shame, and they've got to be a couple 50 to 75 years old. For those trees to come down would be a shame, would just be a crime. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak against? Is it different information than what we've heard? Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Green.
My name is Lauren Locklear. I live at 2714 Barbara Avenue. It's a double lot, so it's 2714 and 2704. The entirety of my backyard comes up against this lot that's in question for rezoning. The reason that we moved into this area 4 years ago was because it was very similar to where my husband grew up and to the neighborhood where his grandmother lives, which is all single family. She lives in Hilton Heights. His parents live in Mahina Woods. The draw was that it was all single family, and that when we came and saw the neighborhood, we saw people who his parents knew had lived there forever, who his parents had gone to school with. It's an established neighborhood with people who are proud of their yards, who are proud of their homes, and are proud of being a community together. We can stand out in the yard and check the mail, and 5 people will come by or wave and say hello. It was a safe place. I felt like it was somewhere where we could start our own family and have our own traditions similar to what we both grew up with. I'm concerned about it being an apartment complex with 48 units because that changes the whole dynamic of our safe little street where people have moved there because it's single family, because it's just the people that are there, and there's not a lot of renters. Everybody around me are all homeowners. The only place near my house that is a rental right now is across the street, but it has stayed rented full-time with people who are there for the long term. We do not have people that move in and out within a school year. I'm concerned about the fact that it may be college housing. I was a college student, and I'm ashamed to admit I didn't take very good care of the property around me, and I didn't have a lot of respect for it. Our neighborhood right now has a lot of respect for people and their property. We have a very low crime rate, even with what's going on in the back with the drug use and the homelessness. We protect ourselves on our street. I'm concerned about that lot being cleared out. We have a lot of animals that you can hear back there at night. We've heard it talk about the green space, but there's a lot that hasn't been talked about, and it's just the feeling you get on that street. If apartment complexes are built there, people will not come into this area as single family, and this neighborhood that is kind of a hidden gem off of Edgewood will not be the same any longer, and you will not have people wanting to move in when the people who have lived there 50 years, 30 years in the same home no longer are there anymore. The whole neighborhood is going to go downhill is my concern. And then there's also the concern of safety. Having that many people who are not permanent residents living behind where I am choosing to grow a family, I'm concerned about what kind of element would be moving in. We already know that there are some shootings in some of the college apartment complexes. There was the one off of University near Mahina Woods, where they had the police shooting with people running through there with drugs and everything. So my concern is safety. My concern is the downfall of the neighborhood if this is rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commissioners, any questions? All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that has any different information? Or make sure that this is different information, please. Thank you. State your name and address, please.
My name is Betty Lewis. I live at 2525 Norris Road, apartment 103. I live in Hidden Lakes, and no one really addressed the traffic patterns. Norris Road, which is where the apartment complex will be built on, intersects Edgewood Drive and Macon Road. Traffic there is horrendous at rush hour and especially during school time. Again, as part of the board, I don't personally object to a apartment complex there, but I would really like to urge you guys to put a limit on how many people could be there. I don't want to see 150 plus units there because then I'll never get out of my driveway, basically. But if we have a limit, if you decide to go ahead and approve this request, then I think that would be very helpful, and that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, Mr. Green.
I would like to ask Mr. Cameron if he could show his rendition of the complex.
Yes, sir. Is there?
How you want to do it?
Hey, if I could just mention a couple of quick things. That I know these rezonings, they're emotional. I get it. I just want you guys to understand, yes, I live in Florida right now. I went for an opportunity for a couple of years. I just moved from Columbus last year. I've been in Columbus for the last 12 years. It was an opportunity for me. I took it. I have every intention of coming back. So I'm not just some guy from Florida that's shown up here to wreak havoc. So
Let me ask two questions. On the west side of the property, which I guess is to your right, what is the size of that buffer between the property line and the parking lot?
Truthfully, it's over 50 feet. I'll say that. It's over 50 feet. I hate to say I'm not sure the exact number, but it's at least 50 feet.
All right. And Mr. Johnson, can you tell me what the elevation change is from the parking lot down toward Barbara Avenue?
The parking lot to Barbara's anywhere from, we're talking about the back parking lot.
The
on
back,
side.
the west parking lot, yes.
That's the lower ground. It's about a 5-foot elevation difference there.
Okay.
But it's 20 to 30 from Norris.
Gotcha. All right, so it continually slopes.
It continually slopes
to the west.
down.
Okay. All right.
It's just like, Shrine Club's at the bottom.
Right.
Norris is middle, Tip Top is Tip Top. So
I just visually, when I went by there, I couldn't see that elevation change because, you can't get from one point to the other and see the whole thing.
yeah, and it's heavily wooded, so even if you go
Right.
down Barbara, you can't.
You can't see.
The gentleman said about the trees, you can't
Right.
see Norris Road or anything from Barbara because of the elevation and the heavy vegetation.
Right, okay. Thank you very much.
If I could I mention a couple other things? Hey, I'm a renter, so I don't feel like a transient, okay? So I don't like that term. There's nothing wrong with renting property. I think that's truthfully, I think that's a little bit more of the future, that the home ownership is just it's gonna drop over time. And so, and me as a renter, hey, I still take care of my property. I apologize to the residents. I did not know that there were homeless people on this property. When I found out,
Okay.
When I found out, when somebody called me from Hidden Lakes, I immediately called the police. I have never received a call from a police officer, ever. There was a former police officer at Hidden Lakes. He called me. That's the day I made the call because he couldn't do anything about it. So I don't want drug users on my property in their backyard. I don't want that either. It's just, I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. That
thank you.
It's just, hey, last thing. I am perfectly fine with putting a condition that it can only be 48 units also. I'm trying to be transparent. No, I'm not trying to hide anything, get this through, and then, build 150 units. This is my plan, 48 units. So
Thank you.
I'm okay with that condition.
All right, is there still anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this that has different information than what we've already heard? We've heard some repetition. Okay, if you would come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Tom Lohman, 2714 Barber Avenue. I just had a quick question on the garbage area. I know 48 units produces a lot of garbage, and typically the dumpster units are typically in the back. I'm sorry.
Step up.
We need to hear
Oh,
this
step
on the
to mic. I'm
microphone,
sorry.
please.
Typically, the garbage units are in the rear of the property, correct? Most residential. I don't see the garbage units listed on here.
It's just early, truthfully. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's just early on the concept.
Sure.
Of,
That's fine. Our back door.
But we will take that into consideration.
Sure. Our back door is 20 feet from the property line. So having a garbage unit 20 feet beyond that, it's probably not going to be, just not going to work for us. I don't want to put down anything at Hidden Lakes or anything like that, but their garbage unit stinks sometimes, and we can smell it from our property. And we would prefer not to have another garbage unit that close to our back door. And that's the back door that we use every day. So that's the only question I had.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else with different information? We've heard a lot of repetition. I need you to make sure this is something that hasn't already been presented. This lady in the back, if you would please come up, give your name and address, and please only address new information.
Good morning. My name is Francesca Panto, and I live at 2806 Barbara Avenue. I think one of the main things that hasn't been addressed is the schools. I know we talked about it would impact the schools because they may or may not be college students, which isn't guaranteed. There's dozens of children that walk up Edgewood and down Norris from school. Increasing traffic would be extremely unsafe for these children, especially given there's not adequate sidewalks anyhow. So I'd like that to be taken into consideration. I don't think it's necessary to have any sort of apartment complex, especially geared towards CSU students, seeing as how they have ample amount of housing. And his example was a new apartment complex on Armour Road, which is very close to CSU. So I don't think that's necessary either. With the statement about no one's buying single-family homes, we're technically considered the Midtown area, kind of on the outskirts. Houses in Midtown are going so quick that they're only on the market for a week. So I find that hard to believe that single-family homes wouldn't sell in that area. And they're actually looking for homes under the $200,000 range. So as a developer, why would you not just build homes there and then sell them? It is in my backyard, little catty corner to where the lots are. It would be an extreme disruption to have the development even built, let alone exist. Norris Road's a 2-lane road. You would have to block off that road, which is a major thoroughfare, to Macon Road to the highway for people to even get that where they need to go just to build these. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else with different, are you certain this is different information? Because I keep hearing the same things over and over, which I appreciate that, but if you would state your name and address.
My name is Barbara Corzan. I live at 2700 Barbara Avenue, and this property is right behind my house. And aside from the fact that I love the woods, already they've cleared some of that area, and I can actually see cars going back and forth down Norris Road already. You've heard that before. But you haven't heard that Barbara Avenue area is a dead-end area. We can only get out of Barbara Avenue onto Edgewood Road, and then East Lindsay Drive onto Edgewood Road. So it's already very difficult for us to get out, especially on school mornings, because cars are going both directions on Edgewood Road. You add a lot more cars going and people taking children to school, it will be impossible to get out of our street. My other objection is that in looking at this plat, let's see, which side is Barbara Avenue? This side over here? This side? Oh. How can you build it that way if that's Barbara Avenue? That's not right. Barbara Avenue is going to be on either this one or this one.
That's it.
Well, anyway, I don't see, I see very little green space. And we enjoy our backyard. I do a lot of gardening, and I do not want my backyard to be looked down upon by high-rise apartment buildings. But aside from that, my backyard would abut this apartment complex, and I can just envision students going through my yard to get a shortcut to Clubview and Richards, which has happened before. And so I really object on that grounds. We have a wonderful neighborhood. We have lived in our house since 1970. So please don't mess up our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Okay. All of this has been very repetitive, so if anyone else wants to speak in opposition, it needs to be absolutely something that has not already been brought forward. Yes, if you would please come forward. I heard a promise.
Good morning. My name is Jane McCamey. I'm at 2746 Barbara Avenue. I sent an email to Mr. Johnson's office, and I believe he got a copy to you.
That was
So
forwarded, yes.
I won't go over that, but I want to just reiterate, no reiterations. I don't think it's been said out loud here this morning. I'm worried about the elevation of the proposed zoning area versus us downhill. Once you take out vegetation, big trees, the wash already comes down pretty substantially during heavy rains. We have soggy backyards already. So that worries me. And I would hope that you would take that into consideration when you decide.
Well, Mr. Johnson, I believe the plan would require drainage.
The way the drainage
there.
plan works is he cannot dump any additional water on there.
Right.
And one more thing. On the sketch here, it looks like they have very gratuitously offered to use our backyards as their buffers, since the parking lot seems to come almost to the end of the lots there.
Mr. Johnson, can you address that? The buffer is from the property line, correct?
Buffers from the property line on his property. I mean, that's primarily what he's buffering. To the south, again, is Hidden Lakes, and to the north is more vacant property on Norris Road. So most of what you see is the buffer. Now, this is a site plan.
Right.
It's not anything that's gone any further than this process yet.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. Any questions for me?
Commissioners, any questions? All right, for all of those that are in the audience, I want to make sure you understand we do respect your opinion, so So the commissioners can get a count of all those that are in opposition to this. Would you just raise your hand, please? Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, any other discussion?
I do have a question for Mr. Johnson. By right, if he, consolidated all these properties, what could he do by right with SFR2 and no rezoning? How dense could he build single family?
Each lot has to be 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
If you put a road in, it's got to be a 60-foot right-of-way, and a cul-de-sac, which really wipes out the SFR2. And of course, you could go for something denser, such as a 3 or a 4. But as far as running, 50-foot lots off of Norris, Ed Houston came a few years ago and did that, got a variance to have 2 50-foot lots, and I don't know if his focus is in Harris County right now, but they're still sitting there vacant, so that's been done in the past. So it's not been unheard of in this immediate area.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other discussion, questions? All right. Do I? You'd have to come back up to the microphone again, please. Restate your name and address.
My name is Barbara Corze, and I live at 2700 Barbara Avenue, directly behind this property. And I didn't think until Jane mentioned the drainage, but right between our property and Lauren's property is a drainage ditch that Mr. Underhill, who used to own that property, had dug to drain. He used to have a scuppernong arbor back there, orchard, whatever you call it, and it drained water from that, which comes down when heavy rains, gets really high, and it goes into the sewer right on the edge of our property. So if they're putting this apartment complex back there with all this pavement, where is this water going to go? It can't, that ditch can't hold any more.
I think as Mr. Johnson mentioned, they cannot dump any additional water, so that would be part of the plan.
This is serious.
Detention pond.
Our house is pretty close to this ditch, and we'd be flooded. Thank you.
The development of the property would not allow any additional drainage.
I don't know how they could keep it from draining.
Well, there's multiple ways. There's detention ponds, there's different routing of sewage. I mean, there's ways they can accommodate that, but he would have to accommodate that as part of his plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, any other questions, commissioners, discussion points? Do I hear a motion? Do we need additional discussion before there is a motion?
Well, if there is no motion, doesn't the action just dies?
Correct.
What does that mean? Oh, Lord, let's see here.
That would mean that no action was taken by this committee. We're checking right now.
All right, for the sake of making it clear whether something's going to happen or not, I'm going to make a motion for discussion, and then we can vote on it one way or the other. I move that in the case of REZN 06-19-5904, request to rezone 3.59 acres located along Norris Road from SFR2 to RO. I move that we approve it, but with the condition that there is a 60-foot buffer on the west side, undisturbed 60-foot buffer, and a limit of 48 units.
Do I hear a second on that motion with those restrictions? All right, thank you, Mr. Greenblatt. All in favor by raising your right hand? All opposed? All right.
I need a counter motion. If you're going to, it's just a failure right now. I mean,
As it relates to matter REZN 06195904, a request to rezone 3.59 acres of land located at 2243, 2705, 2713 Norris Road. I move that the request be denied as presented to the planning department.
Mr. Johnson, I believe the first motion carried as being not approved, so I don't know that that the motion of order would be to go to another.
well, let me see, because I'm substituting, so.
But your motion is contrary to the previous motion that was already voted on. Well, my concern is the legality of having another motion and counter to the previous motion.
City council, city council, city council.
So, Mr. Johnson, my understanding of this motion and the vote was that it be denied.
Okay. I'm just, everything I'm pulling up is council, council, council. All right, failure, let's see here. Approval of motion. Failure of a motion to approve. Okay, you're correct. It's automatically recommended for denial. So there was no need for so it's just a 5-2.
5-2.
2-5 for denial.
Correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, I officially withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. All right. Is there any other business that needs to be conducted?
There is, are we still on this?
It will, the recommendation going to the Planning Commission and to the City Council is for denial.
Under new business, there's no meeting scheduled for August 7th. The next meeting is scheduled for August 21st, 2019. Also, and it's not listed on here, I think everybody here staff-wise, including Mike and Bruce, have a conflict on October 16th. So we were going to ask you all if we could move that meeting to October 23rd if it ends up being necessary.
Okay. I would recommend you poll each of the commissioners and make sure there'd be a quorum, but I don't have a problem with
Okay,
you
well,
doing
I've
that.
heard from you, and
I know you.
now I'm hearing from Mike.
I will
so
not be here the
I got two.
And
so-
Mr. Brandon said he will be here.
Okay. All right, so we just need to get it to clerk of council as soon as possible. So if y'all will just shoot me an email, letting me know if you can be on the 23rd or not, that'd
Okay.
be great.
And the last
And then
order.
I'll let John bring it back and officially.
Okay. The last orders, I would like to officially welcome Mr. Larry Darby and Mr. Xavier McCaskey to the commission. Thank you for volunteering your time to come for something that's very important for the city. So thank you for being here. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, all in favor, we are adjourned.